are. I'm looking in the comments. Let us know who's here. Let us know where you're watching from. Would love to know so that we can have a conversation. Mom, good to see you, Mom Jones.
Hi, Mom Jones.
Hope you are well. I know you texted me. Y'all coming on? We are on. We are on.
Sorry we're
We're a
late.
little late, but we're. What do they say? Better late than never. I think that's how it goes. And so we are here now, and we hope that you all are having a good Sunday so far. And we hope that you are enhanced by the conversation that we will have together moving forward. Just going to give a couple minutes in case anybody else wants to join us. Um, hey, share this, invite others to come be with us for a few minutes this afternoon. I keep wanting to say this morning, but we are past that. This afternoon, or maybe you're watching tomorrow morning or some other time. We don't know. Whatever the case, whatever it is for you. Maybe you're in another time zone. Maybe it is morning where you are. Maybe it's later in the afternoon. We don't know, but we're glad you're with us. I'm glad you are well. I'm glad you are well. Hey, that's a good testimony in and of itself because not everybody is well. And so, glad that you are well. Um, and yeah, so I've just had a thought that many of us are so busy. And many of us are busy in different types of areas. Some are busy with work, some are busy with school, some are busy with their home, some are busy with family. There's so many things, but we all have some kind of work that we're doing. Now I know it varies the levels of it, the formality of it, whether formal or informal. Though there is work that we are all doing. I don't care if it's the work of cleaning your house. That's work. The work of raising children. That's work. The work of tending to your garden. That is work. Whatever it may be, whether it is in a traditional work environment, in your home, your ministry. And I do believe that each of us is actually the word ministry is defined. It means literally work. It is the work that you're doing. And so at different phases of life, we have different focal points for where our work is aimed. There are seasons in our life where Caden will tell us all the time, "I'm going to work," and what she means is it's time for school. And so the focus or the outlet of her energy that is going toward accomplishing something, the focal point of her work at that phase in her life, and many of us when we were at those phases of our lives, is school. It's our education. It's our development. It's collecting information, collecting methodologies and ways of doing things and ways of understanding things. And so that for a phase or a season of our lives, some of us longer seasons than others, because I thought I was a career student for a minute. But our focal point sometimes is developmentally being educated. That's the focal point of our work. Others, then, we sometimes move from that to a phase of occupation or vocation, or we go into the business world or the industrial world or wherever it may be, retail world. There's all these different avenues that we tend to find jobs where we go in and we do work and we collect paychecks, and that's a season of our lives where we're doing that. Others of us run into seasons of our lives where our focal point is not necessarily a business or an organization, but we may be doing the work of entrepreneurial endeavors where we are building and designing the business. But our energy, you're seeing the theme here, our energy is being given toward a certain outcome, toward a certain focal point that we're focusing our energy and our attention. And so it could be the business or the service that you're providing on an entrepreneurial level. Many others, the focus could be for seasons of your life, like I'm really, my focal point is pouring into my children, and that is an admirable focal point. Maybe the most difficult one that I've described so far at times, and it is, but your energy, same thing. No matter where we're looking at this, our energy, our time, our effort is pointed toward the focal point of investing in our children or our household becoming everything that you see, that you envision for them to become, and bringing them from this point to their next point. Um, what are any other focal points that we have? Some people's focal point is investing. They don't do it the same way. So this is what I mean. There's a lot of different ways that we can kind of see that we're always going to be using our energy, our time, and our efforts toward accomplishing something, but it varies what the focal point is that we're giving that energy, time, effort, commitment to. And sometimes that changes with different seasons of our lives. All right, that's our baseline for today. I've been thinking a lot in one of my focal points in particular about motivation and engagement. Because a lot of us, regardless of which focal point we're pointing at, there are variations, roller coasters of how motivated and engaged we feel toward the particular assignment that we have at this particular season. So there's sometimes, some seasons, some assignments, some focal points that we might get really excited about. And so our engagement, we're very engaged, it's very high. And then frustrations come, and that begins to sometimes bring that engagement level, the motivation, the enthusiasm, and excitement to give that energy toward a particular focal point might go down. So it's this ebb and flow. It is these ups and downs of energy. And so the word engagement, in the sense that I'm using it, many times pointed towards work engagement, is our involvement and enthusiasm towards an assignment. If I'm engaged, then I'm involved and I'm enthusiastic about, or focused toward, the focal point towards the assignment that I'm putting that energy toward. But the reality is that sometimes we are highly engaged, sometimes we are minimally engaged, and sometimes we are disengaged. Oh boy, without engagement, disengaged, without excitement, without involvement. We don't even show up sometimes, without energy, without commitment toward the assignment. And so when we are disengaged, and I know I'm talking a lot, I'm going to be quiet. When we are disengaged, it impacts the quality of what we are investing into whatever it is that we have as our focal point. I don't know about you. I am never just completely engaged, and I'm it's very rare for me to be completely disengaged. So it's usually a combination. For most of us as humans, our engagement levels go up and down. It varies. It depends. It's circumstantial. There are things that impact it. The style of whoever may be the authority figure in a situation is different. Sometimes if I'm entrepreneurial or spiritual, then I have to see the authority level as something above me that isn't always seen, is how I see it. It varies. It varies. But I wanted to check in with y'all to ask a few questions about your engagement levels toward the assignment that you are in, the focal point that you're pointing your energy toward right now. And I can already hear your minds. Without comments, I can hear your minds well, I don't know what my focal point even is right now. And that can be a frustrating feeling because we feel like we should know and we want it sometimes provides some structure and purpose in our life if we can point to what the focal point is. All of us have something that we could be pointing our energy, our commitment, our involvement, and our enthusiasm toward. So I want you to get in your mind. I'm gonna go on a little bit of a journey for a few minutes, and I'm gonna ask Camille some questions because I'm talking so much. I don't want to talk alone. I don't want to talk alone. Um, some questions about engagement levels at whatever particular point of assignment you're in. And please understand that your assignment is subject to change. Where you are right now might not be where it's likely not going to be where you will be in 5 years and 10 years. Like usually we continually go from faith to faith, from glory to glory, from assignment to assignment. If I think back to 5 years ago, I had some different focal points, right? They shift. And so I don't only have one focal point right now. Camille doesn't only have one focal point right now. Like, we generally have multiple places that we tend to consistently invest our energy, or maybe we invest it here for a little bit and then we shift and we invest it here for a little bit. Um, so, first, I'm asking you to identify, and you don't have to comment necessarily. Uh, you can, but only share to the level of your comfort, whether you're watching live or on the rebroadcast. But I'm going to ask you kind of an introspective question. What is your focal point in this phase of life? Or focal points? I don't want to limit it. What do you see as your focal points at this particular moment or season? Because seasons have beginnings and endings. This particular season of your life. Um, yeah, let's start right there, getting some of that in mind. Um, you have anything you want to share at this point, or you want to wait?
I'm writing down my focal points.
Okay, cool. That's personal. That's introspective. Um, I've got multiple that are in my mind that I'm thinking of that I consistently give energy to a few very important focal points. Important for different reasons. Sometimes it's a good practice to prioritize your focal points. Anyway, so as we're pursuing goals, as we're going after certain life objectives, we have things that we're trying to accomplish. We're working on something. We have some particular assignments. I do want to ask some questions. I'll start with Camille, and anybody who wants to add in the chat would be great. Again, whether live or on the rebroadcast. Um, I know me, sometimes as I'm pursuing certain assignments, there are some things that sometimes I've seen some patterns in myself. There are things that discourage my progress. And so, my first question for you is what discourages your progress for your assignment and your motivation?
For me, things that discourage my progress include um, one too many walls,
Mm.
one too many barriers. And if I'm not in the right place mentally, I can let those, no's or walls or doors close to impact my progress.
Mm-hmm.
What was your full question one more time?
What discourages your progress or your engagement?
Yeah.
Motivation?
The other thing that will do that for me personally is if I'm stressed out about other things. So
Mm.
it's like these other, whether internal or external things that come and really distract me
Mm.
um, mentally or emotionally. So um, I think just really not having the peace that I need to be able to maintain within me to keep that the main thing the main thing.
Mm. Yeah. I know for me, and I wasn't going to answer my own questions, but now I'm going to because
Well, yeah.
I was inspired.
What are?
I was
It's
inspired.
a talk.
It's a talk. One of the things I know that tends to discourage my progress and motivation, engagement, um, very much connected. I think Camille said too many walls and barriers. Um, for me, it's often a matter of feeling like I have limited capacity. And I already told you, I try to stay motivated toward a whole bunch of things, sometimes too many. Sometimes I think I say yes to more than I should. And I feel responsible for my commitments. And Camille knows this. She's pointed out to me that this isn't driven. This doesn't drive everybody. I feel sometimes overly, perhaps, committed to my legacy. Like I'm thinking about, I've gotta, and especially earlier in my life, I was really driven by, I have to make a mark here. I have to do this. I have to do that. I want to make sure I'm making an impact. And um, so sometimes I have more vision than I probably have capacity for. Um, and that's when I start uh, being disengaged because when it starts feeling overwhelming to me, I say, yeah, let's just act like that's not even over there anymore, which is terrible, but it's the truth. For me, I will, when overwhelmed and when disengaged, I like when I think of the word disengaged, like I think of mechanical things, like when you disengage a brake, or when, and I don't know much about it, but or when you disengage a piece of machinery, it removes itself.
Detach.
Yeah, it detaches, and that's what I will emotionally do when overwhelmed. I was gonna say overwhelmed. When overwhelmed, I can emotionally detach, whether that be from a job, from a pursuit, from a business, from a task, sometimes from people. I'll just be like deuces. And so, what discourages my progress is probably my tendency to take on too much and to disengage and how did you say, detach when things begin to feel overwhelming. That's just the reality of me. I'm bearing my soul to the World Wide Web right now. Um, yeah. So I don't know whether watching live or on the rebroadcast. Don't feel any pressure to, but if you'd like to share, what are some things you've observed about yourself that tend to discourage your progress? What discourages your progress? I see some more of you have joined. Let us know who's here. We want to have a conversation today. All right. Um, Again, no pressure. We'll come back to it if anything jumps up. The second question, I only have three questions that I know of today. So you're going to have to get this quick. The second question I have for you, Camille, and for our wonderful Weekly Wisdom family is, so the first question was what discourages your progress. My second question is what motivates you or inspires you to keep going? What motivates you or inspires you to keep going? Again, with the focus being on the assignment that is your focal point, or the assignments that are your focal points in this season, this phase of your life. What motivates you or inspires you to keep going?
When I can see it working,
Mm,
um, when I can see my growth, um, or whatever the progress that focal point is, whatever the progress that um, produces, that inspires me. Um, I'm inspired when I get downloads and ideas for more with that focus. Um, if there is like a plan, like even just an outline or deadlines and things like that, it's like I can see, you know, what direction for progress. So I feel like it feels like to me, if I'm walking this thing out, then there shall be an outcome some kind
Mm.
of way. So those types of things motivate me
Yeah,
to
I'm
keep on going.
I'm very much the same on that. So, Camille said, when I can see it working, like what motivates you or inspires you to keep going, when I can see it working, my growth, my progress. But yeah, so I think that's the first baseline for me. When it works, like when it works, but even going a little bit more into that for me personally, um, how I define when it works is usually um, when I see changes happening for the better. So like that's just a guiding thing for me. I feel like part of my purpose in all of the focal points that I have is actualizing potential. Like so whether that be at work or at home or in parenting or in marriage or anywhere, when I see or business or ministry, when I see positive change happening, I'm like, yeah, let's get more, give me more, and I'll work without end. I engage. So remember we talked about when I'm discouraged, I disengage. When I'm encouraged because I see it working, then I engage, and it's hard to pull me away from something, whether even if it's work. Like, and I try not to let that engage me to the point where it's hard to pull away, because that's unhealthy in some ways as well. And then you leave other focal points
You're
unfocused.
unbalanced.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right. Don't leave your other focal points unfocused. Prioritize your focal points. Right. So I don't want to give so much to work, and I know this is debatable, and people will want to argue. I don't want to give so much to work that I have nothing left for what's the priority for me, which is home. Just gonna throw that out there in case somebody needs to hear that. But when I start seeing something work, whether it's at home, it could be something in parenting with Caden, it could be something in our communication. It could be, man, that's that the tenacity. It could be at work. It could be a training program. It could be consulting. It could be ministry. It could be weekly wisdom. It could be it could be whatever my focal point at that time. When I start seeing, it could be wounds. Writing the book and doing book talks. It like when I see positive change happening as a result of my efforts, it's hard to stop giving my efforts to that particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep. The other thing that I think motivates me or inspires me to keep going, always in the back of my head, and I talked about it with the first answer, legacy. What am I leaving behind? How is this gonna make the world better? How is and I have the craziest faith to believe that I can change the world. And whether right or wrong, it's not your decision to make if I'm right or wrong. It's not even my decision to make if I'm right or wrong. But I have the faith to believe that I was put on this world to make positive change in my sphere of influence. Um, like crazy, uh, what do they call it in the business world? Bags, BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goals. Like I want to end racism. Stuff that might not, I don't know, you might think is impossible. I want to keep thinking it's possible so that I keep being engaged and motivated to work toward it. Things like that. Um, Things like actualizing the potential of every organization I'm a part of, every person I'm a part of. Like wild, right? But when I see it, when I see the positive change, it's like uh, uh, fly to fly paper. Like I'm going. I'm like can't stop me. I'm gonna put in extra hours. I'm not gonna want to turn it off until I have to. Until my body says, "What you doing?" or until other priorities say, "Hey, what about me?" So yeah. So we've talked a little bit about what discourages your progress in your engagement. We've talked a bit about what motivates you or inspires you to keep going. And those two answers battle themselves. Whatever your answers were, whatever, you know, Camille's answers, like the walls and the barriers are at war with the my growth and progress, and I see it working. My
Mm-hmm.
capacity, limited capacity, is at war with I just want to keep on going after change for the better. These things are at war in every focal point, in every one of the focal points. They're at war. And so my final question begins to be, let's make this smaller for a minute. How will you keep going for the good things that you're going after this week? How will you remain engaged and remain motivated for the things that you know that you need to be going after this week? And I know this is a different weekly wisdom than what you all are used to, but when you come to weekly wisdom, you never know what you're going to get. We didn't take a scripture and verse today. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. How will you keep going for the good things ahead of you this week? What can you do to win that war of having the right level of engagement, whatever that is for you, the right level of engagement, even in the midst of some of the discouragers that try to stop you from progress? How will you keep going for the good things ahead of you this week? You.
Oh. Just a practice that I have in my life is that I always have a list of things to do and accomplish toward whatever my focus areas are. So I I'm always thinking about what can I accomplish this week to make progress toward those uh, goals and those focal points. So and I'm always looking at it ahead of time. I adjust it as needed. Um, Sometimes I may not get it done that week, but it stays on my list. It stays on my calendar because I want it. If I'm not doing it justice, I want it to nag me to the point to where I'm like, I got to get on this. I got to make sure I'm making progress in this area. So that's one way. Another way for me is I have to stay on top of my spiritual development,
Mm-hmm.
making sure I am feeding my spirit and keeping it strong because
Mm-hmm.
it directly affects my engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I have learned about myself too. Um, like I said in my first answer, if there are external or internal things happening um, that are taking my focus away from the thing I need to be engaged in, that directly affects it. So I have to um, be committed to my spiritual health as well.
That's
So that's
good.
what I'm doing this week.
That's good. Making a list, adjusting it as needed, staying on top of spiritual health and spiritual disciplines. Um, yeah, that's awesome. I need to be more like Camille. I cannot lie to y'all and tell you that I'm gonna just be regimented in certain things like that. But I am going to.
We all have our different ways, though.
Yeah.
So,
One thing I'm taking even from this conversation, didn't know it was gonna go here. I'm writing my answers as we go, just like you all are thinking about your answers as you go. Um, I really want to have a focus this week. I want to monitor my time and my efforts, my energy, and really write down and chart where am I giving my time and where am I not. Like I know what my goals are, but I'm gonna write my goals out, and then throughout this week, I want to spend some time charting where am I actually spending my time? How much time am I giving this assignment versus that assignment? Where am I giving it? Where am I not giving it? So that I can really do the work of examining, am I engaging and disengaging appropriately, or is it some emotionally driven thing that's deciding it? So that's that's one thing I'm gonna do. And here's the other thing that I looked at my calendar, that I know I'm gonna do this week, that I think will help me with this, is I have a day off this week, um, and I think that in itself will help me because I try to go after too many focal points. So having a day where I can kind of not be going after all those focal points will likely give me energy to pick back up next week, with more tenacity, fervor, commitment, and then I can have a dedicated strategy and plan, which I like to have. Um, for okay, last week I saw that I didn't give enough to this particular focal point. Let me adjust. Also, next week, every week for me is one of my Gallup strength weeks, so it's competition week next week for me. And so by charting it, that's one reason I chose to chart it, because I can kind of have a self competition to make sure I'm giving the right amount of time and energy to those goals that I set. And that would be an internal competition and challenge I can give myself, in the coming week. So I
So
don't.
you look at it as like not in like a negative sense, but kind of like a game,
Mm-hmm.
because you got to work it out in your head as a competition
Yeah.
so that you can win.
Yeah. I'm driven by that. Not everybody's driven by that. Some people are completely turned off by that. But
I'm a list checker.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
that
ooh, that feels so
responsibility.
good, you know.
We kind of creeping into Gallup Strengths world right now, and I don't mean to, but that's Camille's responsibility. Like I take psychological ownership of my commitments, so I need to write them down. I need to check the list. She has an achiever type mindset that says my value is in what I've accomplished, and I want to be able to tangibly see what I've accomplished. Oh man, I'm going into a different mode right now by accident. I'm driven by competition, so I have to set up competitions even when competitions don't really inherently exist. Um, and so I got to chart where I'm spending my time and be like, okay, I'm letting this goal win when it really should be a little bit lower on my priority list, and that's my strategic that's coming in too, trying to make sure.
Well, you're also data driven too. For data
Mm-hmm.
driven people, you know, that speaks volumes to what they're working on.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to tell you, give you more information if you look at it as a chart or, you know, as data, a graph or whatever, as opposed to someone telling you, well, this is where you lacking. You
Mm-hmm.
know, this is where you're falling short.
Yeah.
You know, data is going to speak louder to you, someone
Yeah.
like you.
I don't want anybody else telling me that's where I'm
You want
falling
the
short.
data to show it.
I want it to be factual and not based on someone's opinion. Like, give me the data.
You want facts.
I want facts. Because if I think that you're giving me your opinion and your opinion isn't data driven, then depending on who you are, I'm not going to care. Now, I don't care about Camille's. I'm going to be frustrated. But I care about Camille's opinion of me, right? But
We'll start making
it's
graphs.
even helpful for me with someone who I
Bring them
care
to
about their
them.
opinion. Like, if what you're saying makes sense to me, then it's easier for me to receive. And I think that's just human. Like, and that's anybody. That's just communication. If I'm trying to convey something to Camille, I need to convey it to her in a way that makes sense to her for it to really have meaning. Like, she'll care that I think it, but if I just convey it and it's about me, then hey, that's your problem, bruh. So for me, it's the same thing. So it's yeah. I hope this is helpful to somebody. I think it can be.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think it's a great example of, for those who listen in regularly, you know, I'm always talking about taking accountability. So these questions are really good to sit with and take inventory of, how you're affected, when you're affected, um, affected in a positive way or a negative way, but taking inventory and then also holding yourself accountable in order to be your best self.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, y'all quiet today, but on the rebroadcast, I think y'all gonna be loud. So go ahead, be loud, be loud. Um, but no, I think it's helpful. Um, keep on pursuing. Be not weary in well doing, for in due season you shall reap if you faint not. But you're only gonna reap if you have a strategy. You're only gonna reap if you assess, like, what is it that's helping me to keep going? Because what you don't want to do is run real hard after something and then get discouraged and give up and let it fall. Like if we start having a cycle and a pattern of that, we won't be the best, as Camille said, the best version of ourselves that we could be. And we won't accomplish our assignment, whatever that assignment may be. So I hope this is helpful to somebody. I hope it's encouraging. I hope you have a phenomenal week, that you remain engaged, that you take steps to be the best version of yourself so that you can accomplish your goals, actualize your potential, and be everything that you are called to be. That's all I have today.
It's good.
Cool. Love y'all.